It's like playing a game of Go. We always talks about the integration of technique and strategy. You can't rely solely on technique to win, nor can you win solely by playing tricks with strategy. You must combine advanced technique with optimal strategic play to defeat your opponent. Both aspects must be utilized. What I learned from you really challenging. Today, I grasped the importance of maintaining a calm mind. In a state of high concentration, one must remain composed to navigate through challenges. There's an old Chinese saying, use the mind like a mirror, which emphasizes the importance of focus. Your mind should be like a mirror during the game, but any ripple in your mindset can lead to errors in your actions. The mind and hands must work together seamlessly. Only when the mind is calm can the hands respond accurately. So, if there's even a slight disturbance in the calm surface of the mind, your actions will be affected.
What you just said, let me add one more thing. When we reach a crucial point in the game, the coach only says one thing to us, or reminds us to keep the ball on the table.
Oh my, it's too simple. That's so wise, but doing it is too complicated. I don't care what method you use, just get the ball on the table for me. Oh really? And I can imagine because I used to play table tennis when I was young. I know all the technical issues you had mentioned. Like, when you play such crucial matches, the movements in your hands are different twice. Only you know it, even the camera can't see the difference. The gap is too small and people can't see through your mind either. Let's take Xuan Hongchan as example. She broke the record and achieved several perfect scores in diving. It's incredible how she maintains such calmness while executing such difficult maneuvers. They're talking about interviewing this little girl. The little girl said the coach told her this, just like we're in the training hall. So, some people say, I don't necessarily agree. Some say maybe it's because she's too young, she doesn't realize the tension. Is that possible? Some argue that she might not fully comprehend the pressure due to her young age. Speaking of advantages, being young is definitely an advantage. As you get older, your mentality and pressure change. If she were 18, she probably wouldn't able be like this. Secondly, she has no extra burden. From what I've seen in some interviews, her training and living environment are very closed off. For example, he said he's never been to Disneyland or anywhere. She's very simple. If all these complex factors were added together, it would be terrifying. So, she must have excellent coaches and psychologists to help him. Her future is bright.
Well, I think it's possible that Xuan Hongchan, the young diver, indeed possesses exceptional mental resilience. There may be an element of natural talent contributing to her abilities. However, as you had mentioned earlier, there's also the advantage of ignorance is bliss. This advantage may be particularly evident this time because there are no distractions. Despite it being the Olympics, there are no spectators. It's just like training in the diving center without any external pressures or distractions. Having no audience or external noises might enable her to perform at her best. It's hard to say whether she could maintain this level of performance if there were spectators and other distractions. Ideally, we hope she can continue to excel in the future. However, it's unlikely that every competition will be held in such a controlled environment without any external factors influencing performance.
Next, it's about the changes in the body during adolescence, right?
This is a technical issue. If we're talking about mentality, I think this team member indeed has very good psychological resilience. Even in such a big competition where there may not be spectators, they still feel nervous. However, what's remarkable is their ability to control themselves when they are nervous. Because in reality, all of us tend to feel nervous. Just like during our matches, why did I emphasize earlier that our coach reminds us during crucial points not to overthink and just focus on getting the ball onto the table?
This statement is remarkably simple yet straightforward.
Let me tell you, hitting the ball onto the table at that moment is extremely difficult. It's not like our usual training for over a decade, being professionals, and missing the table. How is that possible? Even that elderly man in the park can hit the ball onto the table, right? So, in competitive sports, sometimes it all comes down to that one crucial moment, which can be quite mysterious. I often say that our excellent athletes need to break through that barrier, that thin layer of glass, to reach a certain level. Sometimes you'll find athletes getting stuck at that point, unable to push through. Many athletes face this situation, where they just can't hold on anymore, and they end up losing. If you can break through that barrier, you'll reach another level, and the most important thing is being able to control yourself. Control what? Control your nervous emotions. When you're nervous, your heart beats faster, your hands shake, but even in such situations, if you can maintain control, it would be a giant step in improvement process.
Let's not talk about athletes' nervous heartbeats. Even us as spectators get too nervous to watch.
When your heart beats fast, your hands immediately respond by shaking. This trembling is detrimental when handling the ball because during crucial moments, you can't wait for the opponent to hit the ball to you. You have to play the ball at different angles, demanding precision. If you're too far from the net, your shot might not have enough quality unless it grazes the net. But when you're nervous and your hands shake, where does that precision go? It either hits the net or goes out of bounds. So, what do we demand? Even when you're nervous and shaking, you must ensure the ball lands on the table.
Even when trembling, you still have to get through
Exactly. Even when trembling, you still have to get the ball over the net. You have to control your nerves and make sure the ball lands on the table. It's not just about hitting the ball randomly, it's about maintaining control even under pressure. That's why our training has to be rigorous and demanding, so that we can perform well even in high-pressure situations.
Here we understand the power of distractions. They can make even the most familiar tasks slip from our minds. Remember the scene from the movie Oppenheimer where they had to press the button to detonate the atomic bomb? It seemed like they couldn't even press a simple button. So, Deng Yaping's coach's advice to simply hit the ball onto the table is such a straightforward teaching method, showing wisdom in simplicity. Therefore, when we encounter tricky problems and feel overwhelmed, we can try using the back to basics technique to cope. Emotions are incredibly difficult to control. Sometimes you may realize that what truly elevates a person to a higher level of being is not IQ but EQ. Therefore, controlling your emotions means controlling your problems. For example, in business, when faced with challenges or provocations from competitors, if you allow yourself to be emotionally affected, it could spell disaster. However, if you can control your emotions, maintain a calm demeanor, and wait for opportunities, then the burden of failure may not fall upon you.
Your technique must be above par. Without proper technique, otherwise it would be making no sense. And you have to control the person. Otherwise, the worst thing is losing control. That's why I think in such peak moments, the pressure is so immense that you might even have to rely on luck. Right? At that point, you can't afford to think. No way.
Actually, when we're playing, sweating palms are inevitable. This time, though, because we couldn't wipe the table. Due to the regulations, because of the pandemic, we weren't allowed to blow on the ball or wipe the table. Couldn't wipe the table. So, at that moment, the main thing was to just dry our hands a bit. And at the same time, the main focus was to calm ourselves down, to regulate our emotions. Yes, regulate our emotions. There's a gesture to calm oneself down. And also, you have to observe your opponent again. Because at that moment, we must observe him. Sometimes we can tell his state by looking at his facial expression.
Do you actually watch your opponent's facial expressions?
Yes, of course. If you don't look at anything while playing, how could you just focus to win? Reading the opponent's expressions is important. For example, let's me tested you. If the opponent face turns red, what do you think his state is?
Shy? Getting anxious?
When we observe someone like that, it usually indicates that they've expended a lot of physical energy. Their face might flush red because they're becoming agitated. When they start getting impatient or rushed, it's a sign of agitation. We can sense it, even in their shots, when they start getting hurried. So what if his face starts turning pale while playing? What do you think the face turning pale?
Scared? Or having heart problems? Frightening?
Some athletes, as they play, their face gets paler and paler. We say their face turns pale. It's nervousness. When someone is really nervous, you can tell. Then you know how to deal with it. Sometimes, you see their face doesn't move at all. It's stiff, like they're frozen. That's also a sign of nervousness.
But the worst is when they get very excited and start shouting all over the place. That indicates they're in a good state. Am I right?
You have to observe whether he's just bluffing or if he's genuinely excited. Sometimes, it's just to boost confidence, making a big fuss over nothing to make oneself less fearful. But if he's genuinely excited, then you need to be cautious because he might be on a roll. So, always observe. For example, if his face turns pale or if he becomes expressionless, he's extremely nervous. When a player is already that nervous, there's no need to rush. You can focus on your techniques and strategies calmly because he's already so tense. Just let him make mistakes. At this point, your tactics can be more stable. Some players have a fiery temperament and are prone to getting worked up easily. It's like being fired up, Some young athletes are especially prone to getting fired up easily. You might deliberately provoke them to get them fired up even more.
How could we provoke one more quickly?
Sometimes you just need to provoke him. For example, have you noticed that when Ito plays, sometimes he swings randomly? Not a regular hit.
Well, I can't tell the difference. So does Ito always play with a favorable match? She plays well when she's ahead, but when she falls behind, she's in trouble, right?
No. Absolutely not. When she falls behind, she tends to play some particularly brilliant shots, very advanced shots. Sometimes, you wonder how she managed to hit such a shot, and she actually does it. She can hit it and get it over the net. At that point, we get anxious and wonder why she played like that. It seems abnormal, So, in situations like this, if you're prone to getting influenced, you might fall into her trap. You shouldn't fall into her trap. So, the more she does that, the more I stick to my normal, methodical game. I don't get anxious, I just play normally. But sometimes, you fall into her trap. You see her playing recklessly, and you start playing recklessly too. But when you play recklessly, you can't hit the ball onto the table, while she, playing recklessly, might actually hit the ball onto the table. Then, you end up losing. That's the characteristic of Ito Mima.
But not every champion can summarize like you do. My goodness, I realize you might have a special talent in this regard. Apart from playing matches, for me, I've really learned a lot today. I find it fascinating, and I think the deepest realization I've had today is that I should be friends with Deng Yaping. Absolutely don't become her competitor. That's great, that's great.
Only when playing table tennis, perhaps.
Oh, we haven't heard enough, seriously haven't heard enough. Thank you, thank you.
Alright, that's it for this episode from Smart Seed BVC. If you find that our channel is fun, please make sure to subscribe, like, share, and hit the notification bell. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and feedback at all times, so please generously leave a comment below. Smart Seed BVC is here to help you understand financial intelligence from various angles. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.